I saw this 2001 dark Highland green Mustang Bullitt listed for sale, and the car was about 5 hours north of me, and I really liked the car. It only had about 76,000 miles on it or so, and the owner said that the car had some bad paint. It said it's showing its age, in his words. And so I thought, well, that would be a really nice car to have, but he was asking $10,500 for it, and there's just no way it's worth that. Um, and actually, the guy who owns my Bullet right now sent me the link to this car and said, "What do you think of this car?" And I said, "Well, if he was realistic on the price, I'd be interested in owning the car." And he said that surprisingly, this car lived 2 blocks away from him, and he had no idea it was even there. And so the owner of my Bullet took the blue Bullet over there, and he met up with this guy, and they got to talking. And the owner of my Bullet said, "This guy reminds me more of you than anyone I've ever met." And you're going to see in a minute why I believe that's true as well. So anyway, he got to talking to the guy about the car, and he said the car was a little bit rough, and that was that. So I started thinking, if I sold my silver GT and paid a little extra money, I could probably buy that green Bullet. So that became my new goal. So I started talking to the guy and messaging back and forth, and he got along with me very well. At one point in the conversation, I told him, even if I don't buy the car, I've had a good time talking to you because we seem like we love these cars just about the same. And so as we talked, he showed me pictures of the car, how the paint wasn't very good. And I told him, there was a Bullitt Mustang in Colorado that just sold for $5,000 and it was in similar shape. And he admitted that he thinks that this is the car that was in Colorado. And the car that was in Colorado had a distinct issue with it. The Colorado car had a hole in the trunk lid right where the Ford badge would be. So I asked him, "Does that car have a hole in the Ford badge by chance?" And he said no, and he sent me this picture of the car. And you can see in this picture that the trunk lid looks just fine. And the paint looks really good on the trunk lid actually. And so we got to talking, and he said, "You know what, I'm going to tell you the truth. This is the car from Colorado. I bought it and I changed the trunk lid out on the car." And I said, "Really? That's interesting." And so then he sent me this picture, and here's the old trunk lid of that Bullet with the hole through the Ford badge. That's exactly the car that I had seen for sale in Colorado. Now the reason I didn't want to buy this car in Colorado is because it had rust underneath it, and it was a northern car that's seen salt and everything. And speaking of rusted Mustangs, this Mustang was in town, and I took pictures of this car, and I was talking to the guy about the Bullet, using this car as an example of what kind of cars are out there, and also as an example of how nice my silver one is. This really nice '01 Mustang GT in Oxford White had torn up seats, and the rest of the interior looked pretty good, but it was not in as good a shape as my silver car. The hood pull was completely busted out from someone trying to pull on it too hard. The door pull was broken on it. The engine looked pretty good, but the biggest problem was when you look underneath the car, you can see there was a lot of rust up underneath. This is by the gas tank and the rear bumper. And this is where you can see that the straps that hold the gas tank on are rusting completely through, and there's a lot of rust up there between the rear bumper and the gas tank. And so this is something that I look for in Mustangs now. The new Edge Mustangs are getting to the point where they can be pretty rusty and messed up. And I'll tell you what, my silver Mustang was very nice. California car, it didn't have any rust underneath there. So this is the picture I took of mine to show the difference of how clean my car is with no rust underneath it. And so as I was talking to this guy with the Bullet for sale, he showed me that he has another Bullet Mustang that was totaled. And that's where he got the trunk lid for his new Bullet. And in this picture you can see it has some pretty bad quarter panel damage, and the front end smashed in pretty good. But he took this wrecked Bullet and he had taken the engine out of it, and he put that engine in a '99 Mustang GT. And he showed me other pictures of Mustangs he'd swapped engines into, and this is why I agree with the owner of my Bullet now, that he reminds me a lot of myself. And even this guy who I'm talking about, when I was talking to him, he said, boy, you remind me of myself when I talk to you. We have so many similar stories of Mustangs we've saved and pulled engines out of and worked on. So I thought that was really cool. So he continued to show me some more of his Mustang collection. He had another 99 Mustang GT, and his brother had this 96 Cobra that they had owned a long time ago, and they just acquired it back again, so they're fixing it up. And he said he had between him and his brother 14 Mustangs. And so at this point I had 16 on my own and probably more like 20 with my brother. So we were very similar, and so it was fun to talk to him. But anyway, after talking, he said, I'm not interested in selling this Bullet. I put it at a high price in case somebody with their stimulus money wants to throw it at me and just give me a bunch of money for it, but it's going to take a lot for me to sell this car. So I thought, well, I'd really like to own that car, and if he wanted to work something out, maybe I would with him. I offered him more money than he paid for it. I offered him $5,500, and I'm sure he wasn't really excited about that offer, but I was willing to pay him what he paid for it and a little bit more. But the truth is, he's asking Mach 1 style money. I mean, a really nice Mach 1 kind of money for that car. And I just wasn't willing to pay that much for it. And I even thought about finding a nicer Bullet. I know there was one nearby that the guy wanted around $10,000 for, but it was pristine, no rust, everything like that. So for whatever reason, I just kept thinking like I should list this GT for sale and trade up to a Bullet or a Mach 1 or something. And so I was at the park with my kids, and I was just sitting there, and I thought, well, I'll just put a few pictures of the car on OfferUp and Facebook and just see what happens. And you know, I had put everything in the ad that this car has brand new valve cover gaskets, oil pan gaskets, oil filter adapter gaskets, brand new transmission fluid, brand new oil, brand new coolant. You know, everything on this car is new because I had replaced the engine on it and fixed it all up and cleaned it up and really put a lot of love and time into this car. And so especially the wheels, I love those premium wheels, and my original idea was to not sell the car with those wheels on it, but I thought I'll put the car for a decent price, still actually below the value of the car, and that way if the car sells, maybe the wheels will help sell the car, because I know the paint's not perfect, but other than that it's a very solid car, and I do enjoy driving it every day to work. It's an automatic, my wife drives it too, and I've just been enjoying driving it back to work and everything. But I just wasn't really in love with the automatic, and I just, for whatever reason, I felt like it was time to list it for sale and see what happened. And if it didn't sell, I don't care. I still like the car, and I enjoy driving it every day. So I had about 30 people ask me about the car, and I feel like I had it priced very nicely at $4,400, which is about what the mid-range was for it. In perfect shape, it said this car with the low miles was worth about $6,000, a little over $6,000, so I had it priced at $4,400. I got a few offers at $3,000, and when I turned those down, you know, the people said, good luck selling it. You know, they were really rude about it. They're like, ha ha ha, and laughing at me and stuff. And then I had an offer at like $1,500 and $1,000, really dumb offers. But then I did have one guy who was really serious and said, I'd like to give you $4,000 for the car. And I said, that's a pretty decent offer. It's around what I'm looking to get for the car, but you know, if he's willing to come buy the car and be a really good buyer, then you know, I'll go ahead and do that. And he had to wait about 3 or 4 days before he could get here. And in the meantime, I had other people ask me, and I told them that it was sale pending, and another guy said, I'll give you more than what that guy's going to give you. I'll give you $4,500 for the car. But I still held true to the guy who had initially offered me the $4,000, and he was a nice guy. And I thought if he doesn't show up, then I'll sell it to the other guy. But I did do a walk-around video for the guy who wanted the car, and here's the walk-around video to show how nice the car ran. you can see how nice the seats are in this car. They're not even torn up or anything. This car was a lot nicer than the one locally for sale. And I did include in my sale listing that this is how nice the car is underneath. No rust compared to the ones that are here in town for more money that have rusted out bottoms and everything. And while the car was for sale, I made sure to make sure everything was perfect on it. I even had to replace this connector that goes to the alternator. I had one on the extra harness I had. I had a whole extra '03 GT harness. You can see the old one was all destroyed right there and that wire was bare. And so I had put that in there really nice. And I just want to make sure the car is perfect. It had emissions were perfect on the car. It had the catalytic converters. There were no check engine light. I just wanted to make sure that everything was great for the car. And so the guy asked to meet me, and I agreed to meet him here nearby my house. There's a park nearby where I usually meet people when I sell things. And this is the last of the car here while I was waiting for him to show up. He did take a long time to show up. He was an hour late and everything was pretty hot. I was getting a little frustrated, but I tried to be patient. But I just wanted to show how nice the car looked. It looked really good there in the sunlight with the silver paint and everything. And it looked really good for what it was. And on the test drive, he was a little hard on it. He ran it through the gears hard, everything, and it performed beautifully. But anyway, he decided to buy the car. He gave me what he said he would. And this is him leaving with the GT. And it was a really nice car to have while I had it. I did rescue this car, if you remember the stories behind it. It needed a new engine and everything. I put every bit of the best of work I could into this car to make it what it was. I made this my car. I made it my quality car. And I was able to sell it and start looking for a replacement. And I just felt like I wanted something with a stick shift, whether it was another Bullet or a Mach 1. And so you will see here coming up soon what I chose. Some of you might already know what I bought, but I just wanted to make a quick story about this and tell you everything that was involved with this. Of course, you had the lowballers, you had people that told you the car wasn't worth anything and tried to get it for nothing, and then you had a couple people who um, almost fought over the car. They both said, if he doesn't sell it, I'm buying it. And the other guy said, please, please, please don't sell this out from under me. So um, it all worked out nicely, and the car is in good hands. And the new owner said that he's thinking about repainting the whole car, and he might even do it black. But anyway, that's the story of selling my GT. And stay tuned for the upcoming and exciting event of me getting my next Mustang. This will be Mustang number 17 for me.